As airlines around the world continue to retire the 757, is a possible 757 MAX the short-term solution to many cries for a middle-of-the-market airliner, or simply is it an unrealistic proposal? Well, since entering the industry, the 757 has cemented its position as a mainstay, certainly in that all-important medium-haul market, with its versatility and range capabilities making it certainly a favourite for many decades now. However, production of the 757 ended in 2004, and the market has since shifted quite dramatically towards newer and more efficient jets. Some airlines have, yes, held on to their 757s, believing that no perfect replacement exists and that they need to make a compromise for their future fleet. As Boeing grapples with the prospect of addressing this middle-of-the-market segment, some have pointed to a 757 MAX as the prospective aircraft that airlines would benefit from. In essence, it would be a plane that would reimagine the classic series, no doubt implementing modern technologies. But is the 757 MAX realistic? Is it truly the next step? Or is it just quite frankly an impractical solution that will forever remain a dream? A 757 MAX would theoretically build upon the original 757 design, in a similar fashion to how we've seen other versions of aircraft that were beloved be developed further and have new technologies implemented. The MAX would incorporate no doubt updated engines, improvements in an aerodynamic manner, and modern avionics to help it align with efficiency and performance targets that are often met now with newer planes being introduced by direct competitor Airbus. Furthermore, a 757 MAX would be able to address a niche gap between single-aisle jets like the 737-10 and even the 787 Dreamliner if we're talking a wide-body. This is a market gap that onlookers have often discussed as being empty. Such a 757 MAX could also be the answer to airlines seeking to replace aging 757s still in service, or those looking for a plane that is capable of handling transcontinental and even transatlantic routes, but without, say, the firepower of a wide-body. However, developing a 757 MAX would require Boeing to overcome quite hefty hurdles, from production challenges to the fate of the 757 in 2025, which we know hasn't been in production for 2 decades, and has continued to fade out of the limelight in a natural manner. If produced, a 757 MAX would neatly fit into the middle-of-the-market segment, which has been underserved since the retirement of the original 757. Over the last decade, airlines like Delta and United, among other leading aircraft lessors, have expressed interest in medium-capacity, long-range planes to fill the gap. Ultimately, as Boeing faced complexities with its own business, Airbus has only gone on to capitalise with demand for the A321XLR. This newly launched variant has proven extremely popular with airlines that will leverage the enhanced range to reach new and emerging markets. A reimagined 757 in the best way possible could try to challenge the XLR with enhanced capacity, among other improvements. For after all, the XLR, remember, is hardly a clean sheet. The aircraft could also be a versatile workhorse for airlines that are looking into high-density routes that again do not justify a wide-body jet, but more so would lean on flexibility. However, while theoretical demand exists and possible markets the aircraft could slot into are talking points, Boeing's ability to actually produce this jet would remain always its biggest hurdle. Despite the potential market for a 757 MAX, and some having brought it up in the last decade, Boeing is not currently positioned to launch a new commercial aircraft. This was actually only recently confirmed by Kelly Ortberg, who at the time was the newly appointed CEO. Financially, the company is still recovering from the debilitating 737 MAX crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and much more. The grounding of the MAX cost Boeing billions and damaged its reputation while also uncovering many other problems. In addition to financial constraints, Boeing faces deep-rooted operational concerns, production disruptions that have led to quality control concerns and delivery delays. These really highlight all the inefficiencies that are hurting Boeing's manufacturing processes. While these issues were put on the back burner, regulators such as the FAA argue this went on for too long and needed to become a primary focus. Across 2024, the most recent year, we've seen the FAA increase their oversight into Boeing tenfold, limiting the wiggle room for Boeing to really stretch its wings. Furthermore, management shuffles that have also taken place have created a lot of instability from top to bottom. It's made it difficult for the company to commit to really a long-term project, such as a new aircraft, even if it, say, had the finances, which it ultimately does not. The 777X program has been another issue in itself, this touted as a flagship product, but one that simply has suffered from delays and escalating costs. With the first delivery pushed back to 2026, Boeing's resources remain tied in completing this overdue project. And remember, that is only the 777-9. We still have the Dash 8 and the Dash 8 freighter. And furthermore, you've got uncertified 737 MAX jets. Thus, introducing a new plane such as the 757 MAX, while maybe required at a certain point in our industry, would certainly stretch the minimal resources that are even available to the point of no return and be a major mistake. One of the biggest hurdles to developing a 757 MAX is that production of the original 757, you've got to recall, ceased nearly 2 decades ago. Restarting the production line would be an absolutely monumental task that would also take a colossal undertaking from not just that financial standpoint, but also human resources. Much of the tooling and equipment used to manufacture the original 757 has been dismantled or repurposed, and this is not isolated to just the 757. When an aircraft manufacturer commits to ending production on an existing platform, well, typically it is the end of an era. And while I take a look at equipment, even from the standpoint of the all-important workforce that made the 757 program what it was, they've all largely retired and or been moved on. So you're talking about such a massive undertaking with so much risk. Designing a MAX variant would also require extensive modifications. This is a plane that would now need to meet the safety and efficiency standards of this generation, not prior. New engines, materials, systems, and more would all need to be integrated into the design, which would be a complicated process. These updates, while necessary to make the plane a worthwhile purchase, would come at a cost and could result in really lengthy development times. That development timeline would exclude the certification process, which is one of Boeing's biggest challenges. You're talking about a plane that would be viewed as a short-term solution that wouldn't be coming until the mid to late 2030s at best. The appeal of aircraft such as the 757 MAX and even the 767 MAX are primarily driven by their ability to act as a bridge between the 737 and the 787, which some people argue does not exist now, and if you're looking at purely from an aircraft portfolio standpoint, you'd be correct. However, the feasibility and effectiveness of these aforementioned variants that never launched raise great questions about the market that surrounds them. The commercial aviation industry has evolved since the 757's prime, and airlines now prioritize smaller, more fuel-efficient planes that they can operate on a wide array of routes. That flexibility has been a driving force between many airlines' success stories. While the 757 doesn't have a direct replacement in, say, the 757 MAX, its overall mission has lived on through the development of other aircraft. Some may even argue that jets such as the 737-10 and A321XLR aren't optimal replacements, but can be viewed as close enough. If a 757 MAX had been proceeded with, it would have needed to launch far sooner than where I stand now with you in the mid-2020s to stand any chance of success, and again, would be viewed purely as a short-term solution. If you examine the last 5 years at Boeing, even if the type had launched 8 years ago, its entry into service would have been plagued by the many issues we're seeing unfold right now, so it still would have been a short-term solution and likely entered towards the latter stages of this decade. Boeing also knows that its next commercial airplane must be a true upgrade, and it simply doesn't feel that this kind of aircraft would warrant that. The 757 MAX will forever remain a what if, and it has certainly, I don't know about you, been fascinating to see what people throw out there in the last decade as potential alternatives. Ultimately, we know Boeing hasn't moved forward with any of them, but they are studying some exciting prospects, such as the TTBW in association with NASA, which is basically trying to find ways to redefine how commercial airplanes are going to be produced, and how to make them even more sustainable. I'd love to hear your take down below in the comments. If you were tasked with the job of filling that middle of the market, say in the late 2010s, what direction would you have gone with? A clean sheet, a MAX variation, or something different? You can let me know down below in the comments. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you next time for your next industry analysis.
And we'll fly.